Imagine this. You open your laptop, log into your trading account, and stare at the screen in disbelief. The number is smaller, much smaller than it was just a few weeks ago. At first, you think maybe it's a glitch, maybe you miscalculated. But deep down, you know the truth. You've lost thousands of dollars. Not because the market is unfair, not because you're unlucky, but because of choices, small, emotional, impulsive choices that piled up until they became a $10,000 mistake. This is the reality most beginners don't want to face. They think trading is about finding the perfect setup, mastering technical analysis, or chasing the next hot stock. But the truth? Trading is 80% psychology and only 20% strategy. You can have the best tools in the world, but if you don't control your emotions, the market will drain your account and it won't even blink. Here's what nobody tells you. The market is patient. It doesn't care how badly you want to win. It doesn't care if you're smart, hardworking, or desperate. The market will sit back and wait while you sabotage yourself, while greed pushes you to risk too much, while fear makes you cut trades too early, while ego convinces you to chase revenge after a loss. That's why I created this script. Not to impress you with fancy jargon, not to flood you with strategies that'll be outdated in 6 months, but to give you something far more valuable. 3 timeless rules. 3 rules that most beginners ignore. 3 rules that, if you truly absorb them, could save you $10,000 or more. And here's the twist. These aren't complicated rules. They're simple. Almost too simple. So simple, in fact, that your brain will want to dismiss them. But that's the trap, because the simplest lessons are the hardest to live by when emotions are running high. What you're about to read isn't just a guide to trading, it's a mirror that will force you to see the patterns, habits, and blind spots that cost you money. It will remind you of the trades you wish you hadn't taken, the nights you couldn't sleep because of an open position, the moments you promised yourself you'll never do that again, and then did it anyway. But this isn't about shame, it's about awareness, because once you see clearly, you can change. So before we dive in, I want you to do something. Take a breath. Let go of the urge to rush, to skim, to think, I already know this. That's ego talking. Ego is what makes beginners lose. Instead, open yourself up to the possibility that the lesson you've ignored 100 times before is the very one that could save your trading career. The 3 rules you're about to learn are not optional. They are lifelines, guardrails, quiet protectors that stand between you and financial disaster. The market won't remind you of them. In fact, it will tempt you to break them. But if you hold on to these rules, if you live by them, not just read them, you won't just save money, you'll save confidence, clarity, and years of unnecessary pain. So let's begin. 3 rules, 3 chances to avoid the $10,000 tuition fee most traders pay. Listen closely. Your future self will thank you. Chapter 1. The $10,000 lesson nobody talks about. You remember that sinking feeling, the one that doesn't just live in your chest, but spreads through your arms, your stomach, even into the way your fingers shake on the mouse. You're staring at the screen, red numbers piling up, and you tell yourself, it's just a small drawdown, it'll turn around. But the truth is, it's not turning around. And what started as a little discomfort has now morphed into a silent panic, a whisper in the back of your mind saying, you're about to lose everything. Most beginners don't realize how fast it happens. One day, you're proud of yourself for opening your first trade. You feel clever, confident, maybe even a little ahead of the curve. But a few weeks later, your account has shrunk by thousands. Not because you didn't know what a candlestick pattern was, not because you picked the wrong stock, but because you ignored 3 rules. 3 rules so simple, so obvious, they almost feel insulting to mention. Yet every year, they silently cost new traders $10,000 or more. And here's the twist. It's not just about the money. It's about what that loss does to you. Losing $10,000 isn't just losing cash. It's losing sleep. It's losing faith in yourself. It's doubting whether you'll ever succeed in trading, or in anything, really. It's that quiet moment when you close the laptop and wonder if you've been lying to yourself the whole time. But imagine this. Imagine if someone had tapped you on the shoulder the very first day you opened your trading account and whispered these 3 rules into your ear. Imagine if you didn't have to learn them the hard way. How much pain would you have saved yourself? How much further ahead would you be right now? This is where the real story begins, because trading isn't about calling tops or bottoms. It's not about having the fanciest indicators or subscribing to the most expensive signal group. Trading is about psychology, about discipline, about following rules when your brain is begging you to break them. And if you don't respect that truth, your account balance will be the first to remind you, harshly. Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because I've seen it, I've lived it, and I know the sting of looking at your trading platform and seeing the number minus $10,000 under your balance. It doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in. One trade too big, one stop loss removed, one revenge click after a loss, and before you know it, you've paid the market a tuition fee larger than any college semester. The worst part? Most beginners don't even realize what rules they broke. They blame the market. They blame bad luck. They blame manipulation. They'll say, if only I had held longer, or if only I had entered earlier, when in reality, the truth is simpler. They ignored rule number 1. They ignored rule number 2. They ignored rule number 3, and they paid the price. So here's what we're going to do together. We're going to walk through these 3 rules, not in some cold textbook way, not in theory, but through the lens of real emotion, real stories, and real psychology. Because if you can feel why these rules matter, you won't just remember them, you'll live them. And I want you to hear this now before we move on. These rules aren't glamorous. They won't make you feel like a genius at the next dinner party. But they will quietly, steadily, and almost invisibly save you from blowing up. They'll protect your capital. They'll protect your confidence. And if you let them, they might just save you $10,000 or maybe even more. Picture this. 10 years from now, you look back at your early trading days. You'll remember the mistakes, the close calls, maybe even a few lucky wins. But the thing you'll be most grateful for is that you didn't ignore the basics, that you respected the rules, that you didn't have to learn everything the hard way. Because here's the truth. The market doesn't care about you. It doesn't care if you're smart, ambitious, or broke. It doesn't care if you've had a rough day or if you desperately need a win. The market is bigger than you, colder than you, and far more patient than you. The only way to survive in its world is to play by your own rules and stick to them even when your emotions are screaming for you to do otherwise. And so we begin. 3 rules, 3 guardrails, 3 lifelines that could keep you from handing the market $10,000. Listen closely, because once you feel the weight of what's at stake, you'll understand. This isn't just about trading. This is about self-control. This is about becoming someone who doesn't break under pressure. This is about you. Chapter 2. The Reality of Trading Psychology. You know what nobody tells you when you first start trading? That the charts are your biggest enemy. The market isn't your biggest enemy. You are your biggest enemy. That's hard to swallow, isn't it? You probably signed up for trading because you thought knowledge was the secret weapon. You believed that if you studied enough strategies, memorized enough candlestick patterns, and followed enough gurus on YouTube, you'd finally unlock the code. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Knowledge is worthless without discipline, and discipline is impossible without psychology. Think about it. How many times have you entered a trade that didn't match your plan just because you felt like it was the right moment? How many times have you refused to close a losing position because you hoped it would come back? How many times have you let one green candle convince you that your prediction was right, only to watch the market reverse and crush your confidence? That's not strategy failing you. That's psychology. And psychology is sneaky. It doesn't announce itself with flashing warning signs. It doesn't say, "Hey, I'm about to sabotage your trade." No, it whispers. It tricks you into thinking your impulses are logical decisions. It disguises fear as patience. It disguises greed as confidence. It disguises revenge as persistence. The result? You sit there staring at a chart, thinking you're making smart choices, when in reality you're just rationalizing emotional decisions. And every single time you do, your account bleeds. The market loves to prey on this. It's designed to make you feel like you're missing out. Green candles shoot up and your chest tightens. If I don't get in now, I'll miss the move. Red candles dive and your stomach drops. If I don't close now, I'll lose everything. That constant push and pull between greed and fear is the battlefield of trading. And most beginners don't even realize they're fighting a war. But here's the part that stings. The majority of traders lose not because they don't know enough, but because they don't know themselves. They don't know how they react to pressure. They don't know how much loss they can emotionally tolerate. They don't know how to separate logic from impulse. You might have heard the phrase, trading is 80% psychology and 20% strategy. It sounds cliché, but it's true. Why? Because two traders can look at the same chart, the same setup, the same price action, and one walks away with a profit while the other walks away with a loss. The difference isn't the market. The difference is mindset. And mindset is built, or broken, by rules. Without rules, you're just a gambler with a fancier interface, and the casino always wins. Now let me tell you something that might sting. If you've already lost money trading, and I'm guessing you have because everyone does, chances are it wasn't the market's fault. It wasn't rigged. It wasn't a manipulated stop hunt. It wasn't even bad timing. It was you. It was your decision to break a rule, to ignore your limit, to chase a trade, to let your emotions win. That's the harsh reality. And it's also the most liberating truth you'll ever hear. Because if you are the problem, then you can be the solution. Think of it like this. Imagine you're playing chess against a grandmaster. You're going to lose, right? No amount of luck will save you because they're simply better. But in trading, the grandmaster isn't the market. It's your own psychology. And the moment you learn to master yourself, the playing field changes. You don't have to beat the market. You just have to stop beating yourself. That's why these 3 rules matter so much. They aren't just about protecting your account. They're about protecting you from you. They're about putting guardrails on a road where the cliff is invisible but deadly. Let's go a little deeper here. Close your eyes for a second and remember your very first trade. Do you remember the excitement? The way your heart raced as soon as you clicked buy or sell? That adrenaline rush wasn't knowledge. That was psychology. The same psychology that will tempt you to over-leverage when you win and double down when you lose. The market doesn't punish knowledge gaps as much as it punishes emotional gaps. You can survive being wrong on direction if you manage risk properly, but you cannot survive breaking rules over and over again. The $10,000 you're at risk of losing, it doesn't vanish because the chart moved. It vanishes because you failed to obey your own boundaries. That's the reality. Trading isn't a test of your technical skills. It's a test of your emotional stamina. It's a mirror reflecting your deepest flaws: impatience, greed, fear, self-doubt. If you don't confront those flaws, they will drain your balance until there's nothing left to learn from. But here's the beauty. Once you accept this, you gain an edge most beginners never will. You stop chasing the perfect setup and start chasing consistency. You stop thinking the market owes you something and start focusing on what you owe yourself: discipline. The reality of trading psychology is simple, but not easy. The rules you'll learn here aren't glamorous. They won't make you feel like a market wizard overnight, but they will protect you. They will force you to grow. They will save you from the $10,000 tuition fee that most traders pay. And once you accept this reality, something shifts. Trading stops being a frantic chase for money and starts being a calm game of survival. You stop seeing red candles as threats and start seeing them as data. You stop feeling like every loss is the end of the world and start treating it as part of the process. So let's be honest. Are you ready to stop lying to yourself? Are you ready to stop pretending that the market is out to get you and instead face the truth that the only battle worth fighting is the one inside your own head? Because if you are, then we're ready for rule number 1. And trust me when I say, it's the rule that separates the gamblers from the survivors.
Chapter 4. Rule number 1. Never risk what you can't emotionally lose. If there's one rule that separates those who survive from those who blow up, it's this: never risk what you can't emotionally afford to lose. Notice I didn't say financially, because let's be honest, you can always rationalize finances. You can tell yourself, it's just $100, I'll make it back. Or, I've got a paycheck coming Friday, I'll top up the account. But trading isn't about whether you can afford it in dollars. It's about whether you can afford it in peace of mind. Here's the truth. The moment you risk more than your emotions can handle, you stop being a trader and start being a gambler. Think about the first time you risked too much. Maybe you didn't even notice at first. You clicked buy or sell, saw the numbers moving and thought you were fine, but then the market pulled against you. And suddenly, your heart was pounding, your palms sweating, your chest tight. You weren't thinking clearly anymore. You weren't calmly analyzing the chart. You were begging, hoping, panicking. That's not trading. That's torture. And here's the kicker. Once you're in that emotional state, it doesn't matter how good your strategy is. You've already lost because you're no longer making decisions from logic. You're making them from fear. This is why so many traders blow up accounts, not because of bad setups, but because of oversized positions. They risk too much. They don't realize that the cost isn't just financial, it's psychological. And psychology is fragile. Once it cracks, it's hard to put back together. I'll tell you a story. A trader I knew, we'll call him Mike, started with $2,000. He was cautious at first, risking $50 a trade. But one week he got 3 wins in a row. Confidence soared. He doubled his position size, then tripled it. Before long, he was risking $500 a trade on a $2,000 account. One night, he went to bed with a position open. "It's fine," he told himself. "The setup is solid." But while he slept, the market moved against him. He woke up to a loss of $1,200. Now here's the real damage. It wasn't the money. Sure, losing more than half his account stung, but the bigger loss was trust. Trust in himself. He was shaken. Every trade afterward felt like walking on glass. He second-guessed everything. Even when he was right, he cut trades early, scared to let them run. He never recovered, not because he ran out of money, but because he ran out of confidence. That's the hidden truth behind rule number 1. The greatest loss isn't financial, it's emotional. When you risk more than you can handle, you poison the well. You create trauma. And trauma doesn't just disappear. It follows you into your next trades. It whispers in your ear when you're about to click buy. It clouds your judgment, makes you reactive, makes you doubt yourself. And here's where nostalgia comes in. I want you to remember your very first paper trade, the ones you did without real money. Remember how calm you felt? You could experiment. You could wait. You could actually think. That calmness wasn't because you were smarter then. It was because you had nothing to lose emotionally. That's the state you want to return to, even with real money. The only way to do that is to risk so little that your emotions stay quiet. Because when your emotions are quiet, your logic can finally speak. So how do you know if you're risking too much? Simple. Check your body. If your heart is racing, your palms sweating, your stomach turning, you've gone too far. Your body will always tell you the truth your brain tries to hide. And yes, I know what you're thinking. But if I risk small, how will I ever make big money? That's the trap. That's greed whispering in your ear. The answer is compounding. The answer is patience. The answer is staying in the game long enough to scale up naturally. Because here's the reality. Blowing up one account will set you back months, maybe years. Trading small and consistent will move you forward steadily. Would you rather risk big, feel like a genius for a few trades, and then lose $10,000 overnight? Or would you rather trade small, feel boring for a while, and look back in a year to see steady growth without trauma? The choice is yours, but only one path lets you sleep at night. Now let's make it practical. Imagine you have $5,000 in your account. You tell yourself you'll risk 1% per trade, $50. That's small enough that losing doesn't shake you. You can take 5 losses in a row and still feel fine. Now imagine risking $500 per trade. 1 loss is a punch to the gut. 2 losses and you're spiraling. That's the difference. Same account, same market, but your psychology completely shifts depending on risk. And here's the irony. By risking less, you actually give yourself the freedom to win more, because you're not scared to let your winners run. You're not desperate to make back losses. You're calm, and calm traders win. So here's the heart of rule number 1. Money is replaceable, but confidence is not. Protect your confidence at all costs. Never risk an amount that can shake you emotionally. Because once your emotions take over, the market has already won. And if you take nothing else from this entire script, take this. It is better to trade small and survive than to trade big and regret. Now that you understand rule number 1, let's step into the next stage, the stories of what happens when people ignore it. Because sometimes seeing the wreckage up close is the only way the lesson truly sinks in. Conclusion. So here we are. You've walked through the stories, the psychology, the pitfalls, and the rules. And if there's one thing I hope you've realized, it's this. Trading isn't about predicting the market. It's about protecting yourself from yourself. Every beginner thinks they're different, smarter, more disciplined, immune to the mistakes everyone else makes. But the market has a way of humbling us all. And the humbling usually comes with a price tag, often around $10,000. But you don't have to pay it. Because now you know the truth. You know rule number 1. Never risk more than you can emotionally lose. You know rule number 2. Define your exit before you enter. And you know rule number 3. Journal or repeat the same mistakes forever. 3 rules. Simple, clear, non-negotiable. The question is, will you actually live by them? Because knowledge alone doesn't save you. Awareness alone doesn't protect you. Only discipline does. Only the daily decision to follow your rules, even when it's boring, even when it hurts, even when your emotions scream at you to break them, will make the difference. And here's the beauty. Once you start living by these rules, everything changes. Trading stops feeling like a roller coaster. Losses stop feeling like personal failures. Wins stop inflating your ego. You find balance. You find clarity.
You find a rhythm that lets you sleep at night and grow your account steadily without drama. 10 years from now, when you look back, you won't remember every trade you made. You won't remember every candlestick pattern or indicator, but you will remember whether you respected your rules, and you'll either thank yourself or regret ignoring the warnings. The truth is, the market doesn't care about you, but your future self does. And right now, your future self is begging you, please don't waste years and thousands of dollars learning the hard way. Follow the rules now and save me the pain. So as we close this journey, ask yourself, are you willing to pay $10,000 in tuition to the market just to learn what you already know? Or are you ready to take these rules seriously, to respect the psychology of trading, and to give yourself a real chance at long-term success? The choice is yours. But if you're still here, still listening, still reflecting, I think I already know your answer. You're ready. You're not here to gamble. You're here to grow. And growth begins with rules. Hold on to them. Live by them. And you'll discover something far greater than profits. You'll discover peace.